Live from the podcast studio, this is From Long Distance to Marriage with Rich and Andrea. We're a once long-distance couple who closed 5,000 miles of distance and are now happily married.
We talk long distance, marriage and relationships. Hi everyone and welcome to episode 50 of From Long Distance to Marriage.
50!
We finally made it. It's a nice milestone, 50.
Yeah, 50.
Halfway to 100.
I don't know if we thought we'd do this many, or if...
yeah.
I mean, I don't know what we thought,
We had
really.
no plan. We've been winging it.
We just... Well, no, we haven't been winging it, but we just didn't know if people would give a shit. If anyone would listen.
But they do,
They
and
do.
we're very grateful.
Yeah.
So before we get into this...
episode.
This episode, and to celebrate 50, this one's going to be all about sex.
Woo.
I'll say all about. It's probably not all about sex. We'll be talking about sex, but we won't be going into everything you can do with sex. But anyway, before we get there, we are soon to be releasing our ultimate guide to long distance relationships. So just as a bit of a recap for anyone who's forgotten or not heard about it, this is, we think, or we've aimed it to be the most comprehensive product out there on this. So this covers everything from when you get together, why for people who say, why would you want to be in a long distance relationship, we cover that answer, through to how to navigate being long distance, date ideas, coping with it, preparing to meet for the first time, dealing with the distance when you're apart again, right through to closing distance, visas, the process deciding who's going to be moving. And crucially, I think the thing that we feel there needs to be more support around is, also more discussion around, is the support that you're going to need when you move. That's something we spoke about early on with you. But it's a hard thing to uproot yourself, especially if people move in far away or internationally, and even more so if you're moving to different culture and language barriers. So we try and talk about that in there as well. And then the other lesser known aspect of that is for the person who's doing the supporting, they can need a bit of understanding as well. So we try to make it as comprehensive as possible. It's going to be coming out soon, so if you want to be notified when it comes out, want to get your hands on it, head over to the website longdistancetomarriage.com, put your email address in, and you'll be notified as soon as it's ready. Now on to the fucking.
Yes, we're good. For the 50th episode, we're just going to fuck on the air and see what you guys think.
I think you would love it.
I don't think so.
It'll be a pretty short episode though.
You make some funny sounds.
I make great sounds.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, yeah, we do want to talk about sex. It's been a long time since we did a sex-focused episode. Sex?
I think phone sex.
Phone sex
episode
is
12?
I don't even know what number. But we've done the porn episode and we've done phone sex. But I think we wanted to talk a little bit more generally about sex and either just a relationship or marriage, long distance or not, whatever. But specifically what we wanted to talk about was how to talk about sex. I think in the early days, you don't have to talk too much about it. Your hormones are racing, pheromones are all over the place, and it just happens very naturally early on.
The juices are flowing.
The juices are flowing. They're spurting in some cases. It gets very moist. Moist. Sorry for any women who don't like the sound of that word, because apparently that's a really common thing.
Yeah.
Women not liking
moist.
I mean, I like that word because it means everything's going as it should be.
True.
Quite frankly, you don't want, dry is a more upsetting word to me.
Yeah.
To be honest, because that's not comfortable.
No.
I'm making you blush. I've never made you blush before.
But so
so how to talk about it, because I think early on it's not. Hopefully, I mean, sex is very natural. I think in the beginning, it's a huge part of what drives a relationship. Not to say that it's the most important thing, but it is extremely important. And these things just kind of tend to happen. You always want each other. I think it's especially
important for men, and I think maybe this doesn't get.
What sex?
Yeah, because men and women express themselves differently emotionally.
I think it varies from person to person, though. But maybe generally, that's fair to say.
Generally, and this isn't to say women don't enjoy sex. That's not the stereotype I'm going for here. But I think, on the whole, if you'll excuse the pun,
that would be in the hole.
Men sort of express their feelings sexually, romantic feelings. So
I think some women do as well.
Yes, well, I don't know. Like I said, women enjoy sex, But I think
are you the authority on women's sex?
Yes.
Is that so?
Women, you're going to enjoy your feeling safe and protected and the general love, aren't you?
Well, yeah. In addition to the sex.
But you enjoy sex. I think men enjoy sex differently. We express through sex, you know. So I think generally, and you're right, there are exceptions to it. But as the relationships go on, it's normally the men who feel like they need more sex, or they feel maybe the woman is in control of sex.
So I think what you're saying really badly, not really badly, but kind of badly, is that sex is quite emotional for men, and that's how you can feel close.
Yeah, that's how we get our closeness.
I think women do too, but yes, we also get more of it probably elsewhere that maybe men don't as much.
So the point I'm making here is sex changes as a relationship goes on. So you said early on in a relationship, everyone wants it all the time.
Juices are flowing.
It's very moist.
Spurting.
It's a lot of spurting. Then the relationship kind of progresses and it kind of settles down a little bit and
other things are going on.
Yeah, and hopefully, it's not a bad thing. It's you move on to the next level of a relationship and other things take more of a priority than they used to.
And not just that, your life evolves as a couple.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So you evolve and then suddenly you've got, life kind of gets in the way, especially if people have kids and whatever. But, the point is, you can't spend all your time having sex for your entire relationship if you're going to be together, years and years and years and years. So, but I think then that's when men may be more unhappy.
But I think, so like you said a minute ago, that's not a bad thing. Things settle down. Your relationship is more than just that kind of chemistry. That chemistry early on, I think, drives a lot of that constant
you're building
sex.
a much stronger relationship.
Yeah, so there's other things. You have family in common. You have friends. You're doing a lot more with your time than just staying in bed.
But then
that's when it's important.
That's when you have to become more intentional with it.
And have conversations about it.
I mean, I don't think everyone's always going to need a conversation about it. I think there are still many relationships where the sex is more natural. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, there are many relationships, probably more relationships where it's not as natural and it has to have more of a conversation or it has to be more deliberate because, I think if you pay attention to the amount of couples that break up or there's unhappiness or cheating or whatever, it's because they feel like there's not enough going on at home. And this is what I mean with men and sex. I think women can go without sex if it's on. I think the key is if it's on your terms. If you're choosing not to have sex, then you're going to be happy with that arrangement than the person who's being deprived of sex. But I think a man not receiving sex is going to start to feel like that's his sort of arena in the relationship. That's when he's been feeling his worth and him being wanted and all that connection and chemistry. If the men aren't getting that, and especially if there's rejection in it, I can understand why they're going to start looking elsewhere because really what they're thinking is not just I think a lot of people assume that to be, he went elsewhere because he wasn't getting it at home. Yeah, but it's not because he just loves sex so much. It's because tied to that is the feeling of inadequacy and not being wanted or appreciated in the relationship.
In some cases, but I don't think that...
In a lot of cases.
People should assume that we're saying cheating results always from a lack of sex at home. That's important to say.
No, I didn't say always.
Some people do just love sex and are assholes.
Yeah, I'm not talking about people who are just...
I'm just... doing it, what do you call it? A caveat.
A caveat, yeah.
Your favourite word ever.
Yeah, no, it's true.
But I think, maybe, some relationships the sex stays natural and that's great. But, there may still be times when you have to talk about it. And I think there's a few conversations. There's one, this isn't happening enough anymore. And that's either A, making me frustrated, B, making me, like you were, that's affecting my self-worth in our relationship or whatever, There's also... hey, I really want to try this thing that we've never done before. Yeah. That's a conversation. And there's also, hey, there's certain needs that aren't being met here.
Yeah, and also, you touched earlier on sex being really important. And it's really important to have sexual chemistry. Mm-hmm. If you're really into, say... kink. Mm-hmm. and your partner's not at all interested in it to the point that they don't even want to do it, you're going to be sexually incompatible. And how realistic is a relationship then? Because in some ways, sex can be the most important thing, in that when it's all going well, it's not. It can take a slightly more of a backseat. But if you are sexually incompatible, it's always going to be a problem, and a massive problem, because sexual fulfillment is way, way up there in the most important rank. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're feeling like, I never get to feel satisfied, that thing I really am into, if you start feeling deprived, or you just feel like it's always an effort. So you can have the conversations that you're talking about, and we'll get onto that. But if it's always an effort for you to have sex, or feel like you have to beg for it, or beg for it to be something different, and I think that's also a bit of a trap that people can fall into years down the line, is that even if you're having frequent sex, you can get into a rut of the type of sex that you're having. It's just, you hear about it all the time. Like, yeah, we have sex, it's every Wednesday, it's 9 o'clock, it's missionary, we're done within 20 minutes and we're back watching. It becomes part of a routine. Whereas sex in the early days, because of all the excitement and it being new and the spontaneity, means you're going to be doing it in different rooms at different times, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, maybe when you're out in public and there's that thrill of trying not to be caught. There's all that other stuff going on, and then that can only last for so long. Like anything, it can only last for so long. So when you're 5, 10, 20 years into a relationship, and then it's, okay, yeah, sex again. You know what I mean? And that's... So it's not just the frequency of the sex, it's the routine. And then both of you have to be... Because conversations are great, and we have conversations about it, but what's also better, or at least facilitates it, is if you feel like, in addition to those conversations, or instead of those conversations, you're aware that your partner is really making an effort to think about you.
But I feel like you're kind of downplaying the importance of these conversations in some way, because we're not mind readers. And yeah, okay, you're saying sex means this to men and sex means this to women, but within that, everyone's unique. So, that might mean that, say, Bob wants it 3 times a week, but he's never voiced that, and maybe he's kind of hinted at it, whatever. And Sally needs it once a week and she's quite happy, or vice versa, whatever.
Yeah.
But no one's a mind reader, and, men throw that in women's faces constantly. So, if a woman has not been explicitly told what a man's needs are down the line, then we're going to throw that right back in your face. Well, I'm not a mind reader. You can't just be getting frustrated with me.
No, that's very true. Like I said,
there has to be communication around it.
The conversations are important, but in addition to that, it's important to feel like you don't want to just feel like it all hinges on the communication.
No.
Okay, every single thing I want has to be expressed up front. You're going to want to feel like, maybe it's not mind reading, because maybe the things that are presented to you aren't strictly what you had in mind, but that excitement of being surprised by something, like, you thought of that. For me, that's great. That's going to
but how is Bob, Sally, me, whoever, how is someone going to know that the other person needs that without it being if you've never done kink, or you've only maybe... No,
I think you're getting too specific. What I'm saying is, yeah, okay, you're going to want to say, oh, do you know what, I really like being spanked, or whatever. Yeah, they need to know that.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I'm talking about is part of avoiding that rut of, it's Wednesday night, it's 9 o'clock, it's time to do our thing. Big part of keeping things fresh is, yes, in addition to those conversations, feeling like your partner is still making an effort to think of things on their own, because then that also shows it makes you feel like you're still important enough to them, that they're trying new things. So if you say, okay, I'm going to tell Sally that I want to get spanked next time, but before you have that conversation, Sally surprises Bob one day by walking in new lingerie that she's bought. It didn't necessarily stem from a conversation, but he's feeling good because she's still showing him that she wants to make the effort with him.
I think these are two different... I mean, we can obviously cover both, but I think these are two different topic matters of keeping it fresh and trying to keep your partner happy in general, and when those conversations are necessary, having them and how to have them.
No, I think they're hand in glove.
Do you mean hand in hand?
No, I don't think so.
I've never heard that saying before in my life.
I think...
Hand in glove.
Yeah, they're like one of...
That's foot and sock.
That's foot and sock. But you know what I mean? Like, they are... I don't think they're as separate as you can make them separate, but I think the point is, the broader topic is how you keep things happy and fresh and everything after a period of time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So part of that is, if you feel like, if you're expressing to the other person, if you're having a conversation, that's you giving that information.
Mm-hmm.
But you also want to feel like the reciprocation from your partner is that there's also information, there's intent from them.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so
but I thought we were giving pointers on how to have these conversations.
We can do both.
That was the point.
Yeah, but it's the same topic, right?
You've just decided this is what you want to talk about.
It's very easy to... If you're in a relationship where, okay, yeah, we need to have these conversations, but the other person is not receptive to that conversation, you're hitting a brick wall. So what I'm saying is equally important to them, and in addition to them, is you have to know, whether it's you or your partner, whoever it is in each relationship is going to be different, but they have to be an open door, and they have to still be willing themselves.
Oh yeah, of course.
Otherwise, the conversation is going to be, what do you mean you're not happy with our sex
there's no
life?
point in the conversation if you're not going to be... Obviously, you're going to have your hard nose that, hey, look, I'm really not comfortable. Look, people like all sorts of things. Maybe some people don't want to be, for instance, peed on.
Yeah.
That's maybe a different conversation, your boundaries and understanding them and what's going to work. But in general, you do have to have an open mind.
Yeah.
And yes, to make those conversations work, for sure.
It's not just an open mind. There's probably going to come a point when one of you is very happy with your sex life and one of you isn't as happy with your sex life. Mm-hmm. So the conversation then is, okay, we need to talk about frequency or what we're doing or whatever, but the other person has to also take on board that their partner wants some of these things, mm-hmm. or isn't as happy. So it's not all about the conversation, because you can have so many conversations. When we spoke with Dr. Laura last week, one of the things we spoke about was how you get past arguments that keep coming up. Mm-hmm. So you can have these conversations till you're blue in the face, unless the other person is on board with having them. Not necessarily the specifics, like, I want to be peed on, I'm not happy with that. They have to be on board with the principle of, okay, let's talk about it, and I won't get upset. So there is the conversation, but there's also the environment that you create in that relationship has to be, open and understanding enough that each of you feels comfortable to bring things up, and know that it'll be, received properly. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
But also make sure you keep making an effort. Because if you make that conversation... Don't phrase it like this, obviously, but if the conversation's theme is you're not making any effort and I'm feeling unfulfilled and I don't feel very important, that's a horrible conversation to have and to hear. But if you can say, I know that we've both been putting the effort in for years and we're trying this and that, I'd really just like you to consider that I'm kind of curious about this next time. But if it's different conversations.
But if you're getting to the point where that's a situation that, you need to have that conversation of, you're just not trying anymore and I'm feeling really fed up, there should have been conversations before that. And I know what you're saying, that, that's fine, you can talk until you're blue in the face, but I think people might need some help with that framework of, what does that conversation look like? And something that, I don't remember if we read it somewhere or if you kind of said it, I can't remember, but it was... Basically, in a relationship, the person with the lowest sex drive sets the tone.
Yes.
Essentially, because they're the one that's going to be like, no, not today, I've got a headache or whatever. Mm-hmm. So then that means usually that the person, you said a minute ago, one person can often be quite happy and relaxed with where things are, and someone else is feeling unfulfilled. So, that's a really tricky topic, and I think couples need to work at what's going to help with the person's lower sex drive being made higher. Are they maybe... I know for women that our sex drive is, after a certain age, isn't just go, 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 go still, like men. We might need a little bit of teasing. We might need a little bit of emotional kind of flirt, build up, basically, to get us into that point. And that can be frustrating for men, especially when, you started out hot and heavy, juice is flowing.
Yeah.
And then things change. Birth control can play a huge part on... maybe someone changes their pill or they go from, there's all sorts of factors that can affect women's hormones that affects sex drive, including how we feel about our physical appearance and things like that. These are all big factors. And so you need to be open about those conversations, first of all, about, hey, this has changed, why, and what can we do? Is there anything I can do to help? You know, whether that's researching a new contraceptive or...
Well, and even then, you know, if it doesn't have to necessarily be penetrative sex to get all formal about it. But you know what I mean? I think if one person's got a really high sex drive... Oh no, it doesn't have to be very high. If you've got someone who wants to be having sex and you got the other person doesn't, I feel like the person who wants the sex and isn't getting it will feel like they're suffering more for not getting it than the person who doesn't really want it but will do it. And I don't, like I said, it doesn't have to be sex, but it could be, okay, let's do other things.
Yeah.
To help, you know.
But also, I think whoever has the lower sex drive has a responsibility to the health of their relationship.
Well, this is what I'm saying. The other person is going to be... You can say, oh, I'm not in the mood, forget it, go and sort yourself out, or just put up with it. That's sending all sorts of messages to their partner. One, you're not important enough to me. The relationship's not important enough for me to kind of... This is what I was trying to say before, that there has to be the effort shown.
Yeah, I get it.
So they have to say, you know... They need to say, okay, yeah, this is important to me. Your feelings are important to me. For whatever reason, it could be physically, like you said, maybe they just... There comes a point in some relationships where they can't do it, and so...
hopefully that's much later.
But so whatever, it may not be you need to go and have sex, but you can go into the bedroom and, make them feel the way they need to feel.
Foreplay
stuff, yeah, whatever it may be. But or even if you're just with them and part of the moment while they sort themselves out, the point is... I don't know if I call it a sacrifice or not, but I think the person who is less in the mood should take on board the responsibility they've got and the commitment they made. So it doesn't have to be...
Equipment they've made?
No, commitment.
Oh, it's an equipment. We haven't gotten to sex toys yet.
No, the commitment they've made. Because I think the person who, as I said before, the person who needs it more is going to be the one feeling worse in all sorts of ways, and so the other person needs to step up somewhere. Now, if they want it 10 times a day... Well,
yeah, let's be realistic here.
Let's be realistic, yeah.
But I think... I was trying to say, before you just kind of bulldozed me there, that, yeah, you have a responsibility to do that for your partner, but you also have a responsibility to yourself to find a way to make sure that you do enjoy that. Because, yeah, it's very noble to, you know what, I really don't feel like having sex, but he does or she does and they need it, so I'm going to go for it. But it's going to be better if you can enjoy it as well, and that will put you back on course. So whether that's, when you want to seduce your partner, whether that's reading some naughty literature, short stories are available online, whether that's looking at old photos that maybe you've sent each other, maybe that's touching yourself for 10 minutes before you call your partner upstairs to the bedroom, whether that's... I think there's supplements that women can take. I mean, obviously there's like Viagra that men can take, but I swear we've been in shops before, like lingerie and sex toy shops that...
Oh yeah, I don't know how
well they work, but there's something...
I don't know how effective they are either.
I don't know, but I'm just saying, research and think back to what made you feel so good at the beginning.
Yeah.
And try and recreate that. Maybe the romance, I think for a lot of women, I can only speak for myself, but I think a lot of women... would agree with this, that a lot about what makes us horny is the excitement and the romance at the beginning, and just like the sex, that also declines, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
Well, no, I'm sure it's not. This is what I was saying before, that I think as a relationship sort of settles down, maybe women feel like, I don't know, maybe the sex just doesn't mean what it used to, or isn't as required as it used to be, but if you're not feeling it, putting yourself, kind of touching what you were just saying then about, touch yourself, read the literature, whatever, sort of put yourself in an environment that facilitates you getting more in the mood. Because if you're at home, or if you come from work and you're tired and you come home and you sit on the couch and watch, nothing about that is going to get you in the mood. So if you say, yeah, I'm going to have a bath, I'm going to read something or watch some porn, or I'll visit a lingerie shop on the way home, not necessarily to buy anything, but just being around
sexual
can really just help you get in the mood.
As much as there's responsibility on the person whose sex drive has maybe declined or just has always been lower, there's also responsibility on the person who wants it more to reflect on their behavior. Have I stopped doing the things that seem to have got them in the mood?
Yeah.
There is a huge responsibility on that because, like I said, the romance, the excitement, those things do decline, and it's not fair to make villains or, you know, whatever out of the people who don't want to have sex as much.
No, that's a good point. If you don't, the question, and this goes back to the conversations aspect, is if one of you... I told
you that was important.
I didn't say it's not important. If one of you, if you both used to have a great sex life, and now one of you wants it less, then yeah, one conversation needs to be, okay, honestly,
why is
that? Is it because let's be honest, and I think this is particularly true with marriage, long-term relationships. I think there's a tendency for people to feel like once they're married, they can start to let themselves go. They've already, you know what I mean? That, I'm not in the dating game anymore. I can let myself go. And I think the opposite is true. It's relatively easy to impress someone short term enough to bed them.
To bed them.
But you're gonna get...
All right, Henry VIII.
You're gonna get found out...
I shall bed thee.
You're gonna get found out over years, months or years.
Yeah.
And I think there's a real tendency... So, let's be honest, if you're unfulfilled in your sex life and you think, actually, you know, I used to look this way, I used to make an effort with my appearance, and now I'm just a fucking slob. Of course you're not going to be... You know, you've got to maintain yourself enough to remain attractive
well,
to
it's not just physical. You know, it's not just that we let ourselves go, maybe we stop going to the gym and doing our makeup, you know, whatever. But we also slip into sometimes the less desirable personality traits that we have, being snappy, not being generous, and things like, you know, you do just...
Or you just lose motivation. But you're right, like, early on, you are on your best behaviour.
You were sparkly, you're young, you're sexy.
Yeah, you're young and sexy, but you're also... You put your best face on.
Yeah.
Because you're impressing this person.
But you are generally in a sparkly, excited state because it's new and it's exciting.
You are, but then when you're living together and you're years on life, that's when you see people who... You see them when they're not showered, they're a bit stinky, they're moody that day. You know, all those kind of things. You can't really hide when it's 24/7.
You see it all. You get all of it.
And then if you compound that with... all he does is sit on the couch, he's got no motivation, he's got no drive anymore... And then you let yourself go on top of it. You know, yeah, you be honest with yourself. Are you really putting the effort into yourself and your relationship to warrant the other person feeling attracted to you? So yeah, that is definitely a conversation to have.
And they're hard conversations.
We're not having sex as much. What is it that's, what's the reason for you? And is there anything I can do?
Like, this is a pretty dramatic example, but we were watching this film the other weekend, and it got me kind of thinking about how relationships can spiral out of control. And we were watching Wolf of Wall Street. And obviously, Jordan Belfort or whatever, this character in the film that Leonardo DiCaprio plays, he's a cheater, he's a drug, he's a druggie, he's a crook, white collar. Is that what it's called? White collar when it's financial crime?
I think so.
Anyways, he had this beautiful wife, they had young children together, and they had tons of sex. And like by the end, he's had all these drug problems, he's had all these legal problems, and he's like wants to have sex with her, and she's just like, get off of me, I hate you. And it's just, obviously, like I said, that's an extreme example, but things happen throughout the course of a relationship that affect our connections to one another and affect our physical attraction to one another. And that may not be a physical change. You might stay in fantastic shape, or whatever shape you were that you were in when you were first together, and you haven't declined. But things about you might get ugly, and seeing each other through that can be really hard, and that can affect how much you desire one another.
Yeah, and I think also the thing about conversations is sometimes people don't know consciously what it is. And so for men in particular, women as well, I guess, but I think men in particular, it is important to maintain like a sense of self and a sense of purpose. And I don't always think that your partner's going to be able to say strictly what the problem is. Maybe that, because it's very easy, especially long term, things happen so slowly that they just become the new normal, and you just kind of gradually...
Yeah, you didn't even realise. Suddenly, like, how did we get here?
Yeah, and I think, you may just be surprised if you do get yourself back into shape, or you do carry yourself with a bit more purpose, or whatever, you may find things just start to pick up anyway without the conversation. So I think it's important to kind of have realistic expectations. And if your partner says, "Oh, nothing's really wrong, it's just," it doesn't really mean nothing's really wrong. It just means maybe they're not comfortable telling you. You know, maybe they think, "I don't want to hurt your feelings." Maybe they genuinely don't really know. They can't put their finger on it. It's just something. It doesn't. It's not a. That's not an excuse to do nothing. Oh well, you know, she's happy anyway. I'll just carry on as I am. It's still like kick yourself up the arse a little bit. Make yourself better, because when you work on yourself, you improve people around you.
Well, and I mean, I'm going to be quite open here. Several years ago, I'd put on a lot of weight and was also kind of depressed, and my sex drive completely nosedived. And it was, you know, we had to really work through that. And then, not because of sexual conversations or anything, but I got onto a really good meal plan. I was exercising. I lost a lot of weight. And pretty early into that weight loss process, you know, my sex drive was much better. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, I was feeling more comfortable in my skin. And, you know, I'm not promoting diet culture. I'm promoting health. You know, I was really, had put on a lot of weight and it was unhealthy. And I was feeling more energetic. I felt happier. Obviously, what does exercise give you? That Endorphins. I had a lot of that. I had the pleasure of like, oh, like my body's looking stronger. I can lift more. I can run further. It made me feel really good, and then made me feel comfortable in my skin, and then made me much more confident in the bedroom.
And I think this is an important point, and I'm sure not everyone's going to be happy hearing this, but we do live in a time now where we have to be so tolerant that we're kind of at a point where we're kind of trying to deny consequences of certain things. You know, so if someone, like, let's say someone's sex drive is really low, you can have that conversation all the time, but if the reason for that is physical, that, you know, maybe they are very overweight, that's causing physical hormonal changes. That doesn't matter how many fucking conversations you have about that. You know, and we're trying to deny this nowadays. So, oh no, you have to be, you know, health at every size, all that. And like, yeah, there's a big difference between accepting someone for being whatever their body shape is, and of course we should be tolerant to that. But there's a huge difference between accepting them that way and pretending that there's no consequences to it. There are consequences to things. And if you're in a relationship where one of you's put on a lot of weight, or forget weight, maybe there's just more depression in there, or maybe it's just you know, they've lost purpose, they've lost drive, they're generally feeling a bit flat. Anything around that, including weight, it can't be the elephant in the room. And when you put all that weight on, I didn't come to you and say, "What are you doing?" You know, it was your thing, and I was just supportive of you. And like you said, we went through it. But as you said, there were consequences of it that affect the both of you. And you can't just say, "Oh, well, that is the issue, but we're not allowed to talk about it because I don't want to be intolerant." Like, it's not intolerant.
No, but you do have to be sensitive.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, accept people, and this also comes into what we said in the past. Like, you don't get in a relationship expecting to change someone. If you get into a relationship with someone who's physically not what you're attracted to, but you think they've got potential, you don't. That's not how it works. But it's if you're in a relationship, and if you see them go down this path that results in this conversation, a reduced sex drive, and it happens to be because their diet's not as good as it was, but they're staying thin, you know, maybe, or maybe they just go, whatever. I'm not strictly saying people are overweight, but that may well be the reason, and that may be something you have to address sensitively.
Yeah, and I think an example of that is kind of how you went about it with me. You know, it was something that I've been trying to work at and couldn't stick with anything, and you know, for whatever reason, I couldn't sort it out. And you had started doing an exercise plan, and you said, "Hey, you know, I know you want to try." You said a lot that you want to try and get more in shape. Do you want to do this workout plan with me? I was like, "Okay, yeah, I probably should." And then you said, "Oh, hey, this workout plan that I signed up for, they've sent me a meal plan thing. You know, I'm not really fussed about losing weight. I just want to get more fit. But I know that you've said you want to lose weight. Do you want to get the meal plan tailored to you?" "Oh, yeah, okay, I'll do that."
So
That's a good idea.
It was hiring a nutritionist.
But it was something that we did together. So we were working out together.
It was your choice. Like, so I phrased it as, "Do you want it?"
Can I talk?
Because you've expressed it.
Can I finish talking?
Yeah, you too. I'm just explaining.
But it was it was the ultimate kind of supportive act in the sense that you did it all with me. Like, we were working out together, and then when I got the meal plan, you pretty much ate the same way. Like, your portions were a lot more than mine, but we were eating clean, healthy foods, and you were really good at not bringing shit into the house in terms of, like, sweets and chocolates, unless it was, like, a treat day on the meal plan. And I think if you are expecting your partner who is in a place where they don't want to have much sex to fix that, to make, well, you happier, essentially, in the bedroom, but both of you, then you need to be able to support them in what they need to get there. This is a partnership. This is not sort yourself out, I want more sex, go lose weight. That is not going to work.
Well, and also that because we were doing it together and I was being supportive, there's an element of closeness in that, which, looking back at it now, may well have boosted your sex drive as well, because you didn't feel like you were on your own and you weren't doing it through fear that I was going to leave you, or do you know what I mean? There was none of that. It was still, you felt supported. We did it together, and it was something that we were doing together that we'd never done before.
Yeah.
Although you put weight on, it wasn't because we both used to be like super fit and we just stopped working out, and it just kind of happened. So it was something new for us, which was nice. You know, when you've been together for years, finding anything new is great. So yeah, don't just say you're a fucking mess, sort yourself out. I'll see you later on.
Just like, oh hey, you seem unhappy, maybe you should lose weight. Like, oh great, thank you. That's super
the only
helpful.
reason it even came up as a conversation in our relationship is because you were very open that it bothered you.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me the room to say, look, you've expressed this before. This has come up as an opportunity. Would you like to do it? I think you have to tread very carefully if the other person hasn't. Some people genuinely are very happy whatever their size, and you know what, more power to you. So if you're with someone like that, you have to think very carefully, is it your place to go barging in there and saying this is affecting this and this. But then again, you know, if you're with someone like that and they've always been like that, then you knew from day one, and then it's a case of you made your bed and you have to lie in it, kind of thing.
Yeah, and again, you know, you have to be super sensitive and maybe trying just to coax it out of them, you know. Hey, we're not having as much sex as we were. Is anything I'm doing wrong? Is there anything that's bothering you? Is there anything that's affected this? And maybe they'll figure out, actually, you know what? My sex drive is low because I have no energy, because I'm unfit, or because I don't feel good about me, you know, whatever it is, or whether it's I'm depressed, you know. It may have nothing to do with weight.
Or you may just be really tired from, you know, maybe work.
Kids.
Yeah, life changes. You get a bit older and you get more tired, weight or no weight.
Yeah, we don't want to. That's just my example in our journey. That doesn't mean that this is why people.
Yeah, there are many big people who are full of energy and with a tremendous sex drive. It's just if in your observation that seems to be a factor.
Yeah.
Then don't think you shouldn't be able to talk about it.
We're able to advise directly on that because we went through that as a couple.
But,
that's what we're saying.
But okay, let's move on a little bit. Then if you're having this issue, and building on what we just said, maybe try and find something to do together.
Yeah.
You know, that can really help you spend more time together, be close together, not time together. We've said before, you can be physically together and not connecting. Mm-hmm. You know, you can sit on a couch or you be in a bed that's quite big, you know, so you're not physically touching, you know.
So get a little bed.
Get a little bed, get a little couch. But if you consciously, deliberately spend time together doing things, even if it's just doing like a puzzle, you know, you're just spending time together.
Quality time.
Laughing together, having fun together, working on something together. And we've said before, you know, this podcast was a really good example of that for us. It was something that we've never done anything, I think, creative like this before.
Not together, no.
Not together, yeah. So it's not just, look, sex isn't happening, let's make it happen. Really, like, audit your relationship.
Well, because like I said, there's probably a lot that's changed from the beginning.
There's probably an awful lot that's changed, yeah. And then just say, okay, I want more sex. Have I moved the needle badly since we got together and having all that sex? Okay, yeah. Do you know what? I don't go to the gym and I've got a bit soft. I spend all my time at work. I come home, I don't really pay attention to her. Okay, actually, yeah, maybe I'm being a bit unreasonable expecting her to want to be jumping my bones all the time. Mm-hmm. If on the other hand, say, no, you know what, everything, and I've improved and everything, and okay, what about from her situation? she's working twice as much, or she's got a more physically demanding job, or some family things come up and you're just more tired. Just be understanding.
And you have to be really mature to have these conversations with yourself. Not to be saying, like, if you're 18 or 20, you can't be doing this. You absolutely can. I'm just saying you have to put on your grown-up hat and really look at yourself. And that's something that we've done before. I remember you came to me once and you said, look, you've been seeming really impatient with me. You've seemed unhappy. And, I just want to know, am I contributing to that? And at that time you were. And I came out with a list of, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. And you thought, oh shit, okay, I'll fix that. And you're like, but also I've noticed this. And I was like, yeah, okay, maybe I've been snappy because of my own stuff too. And we both realized that we had things to work on. And we did. And things got better. But, for Rich to really come to me vulnerably like that, like, look, you're acting this way, you're not yourself. Well, I think, I was just snappy and impatient with you. And you said, is my behavior triggering this? And I was able to give you concrete reasons that you were like, yeah, I see that. Okay. I mean, do you think that's harder for men to do than women, to come and say, probably, like, give me feedback on myself?
Probably. And I think for anyone, the default reaction, if you think, instead of going and initiating that conversation, and we've done this before, it's not, we're not better than anyone.
Well, we are, but I'm just kidding. I think what the natural inclination is to just go and say, why are you so snappy lately? It's not good enough. We do that all the time.
We do, yeah. So, but that's not effective. It's not conducive. You're not going to be on the receiving end of that outburst that's come seemingly out of the blue and go, oh, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. You're going to say, well,
fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to take a deep breath, take a step back and think, okay, how do I approach this in a way that's going to be more likely to, to have... You want a mature and reasonable, effective outcome or conversation at the very least. And to get that, you're going to have to approach it properly. And for me, I try and sort of reverse engineer it a little bit and think, how would I want to be spoken to? Or if you've been together any length of time, you get a pretty good idea of what's going to piss that person off. And I know if I come to you and say, why are you so snappy lately? It's not good enough, sort it out. I know that's not going to get any decent conversation.
Yeah, but it can be challenging because, like, for me, for example, I know that if I do that to you again, like, dude, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting like this lately? Yeah, that's going to get a bad reaction. But also sometimes if I say, hey, is everything okay? You're not ready to talk about it, maybe.
Yeah. And
so you say, no, I'm just busy. And I think, you sure? Yep. Okay. And I think, well, that's taken care of. He's just busy. But actually maybe something is under
I think this is...
under the surface.
Another thing of, you can't expect conversations to always fix it 100%, because I think men have a tendency to be less forthcoming sometimes with
sure.
We're a little bit more stoic and we'll think, no, well, I'll sort it out. And, plenty of women are like that too, especially if you have experience of not being listened to or feeling like you're going to be made to feel more vulnerable. If the other person's not going to take it on board or they're going to mock you for it, but I think naturally men are more inclined to say, everything's fine, I really want to talk about it. Not in the way that when there's an argument and all want to say, I'm fine, leave me alone, I'm fine. But I mean, generally we will be more, I think we're just sort of less inclined. But it doesn't mean there's a problem. I think we try and just fix things.
Yeah, but I think, especially when it comes back to sex, it can feel like an attack. Sex is extremely personal, but not just to yourself. Well, I mean, maybe it can be, but between two people, people know how important it is, and people know that a lack of sex or a change in sex can, be a detriment to a relationship. And so it's very scary for your partner to come and say, hey, look, this hasn't been happening, what's going on? Or why aren't we having sex? Or God, you never want to have sex anymore. Those are really triggering things to hear. It's scary. It's vulnerable. It is you at your most, pun intended, naked. And to hear that you're not giving your partner, who no matter what life throws at you, no matter how annoyed you are with each other, you do love and want the best for. It's awful to hear that you're not meeting their expectations in the most basic human form. It's really hard to hear that.
Yeah, and I think something we haven't mentioned yet is because you've become so close and connected and emotionally attached during sex, sometimes or a lot of the times having sex is a really good way of kind of getting past some of this stuff, because one, you're going to have all that closeness during the act, but then you're much more willing to expose yourself and have those conversations afterwards, or sometimes just before. So sometimes think if there is this sort of attrition or there's unhappiness, you think, I don't know how to broach this subject, especially if one of you is sexually frustrated, you're going to be a bit more on edge. There's going to be an element of resentment to your partner, because if you're sexually frustrated, there's going to be a part of you that holds your partner responsible for that. So if you decide to have this conversation in a sexual time, let's say just after, it's going to be, you're lying together, you're close, you're nicely sort of relaxed. It's very different to just catching them around the house and going, hey, we need to talk. And so have sex and see how it goes.
Yeah, and people are usually, men especially, are much more, I don't want to, impressionable is not the right word, but just open and understanding after they've got theirs. Like, there's been, I'm not ashamed to admit it, many times I've needed to talk to you about something, and I haven't, seduced you, but I've thought, I'll wait till after we've had sex to talk about that.
Or you did it before sex, so I know it's coming.
Yeah. And, that
I know you're doing it.
sounds...
There's no manipulation.
Yeah, there's no manipulation, and I'm pretty open with it, but it's kind of when...
I think it's fair. If there's something you need to say and you feel like you've not been given the opportunity to, or you think, I know this is going to go south if I bring this up.
It's choosing the moment. And that is when you're the most connected, when you're about to have sex. You've just had sex. And
it's also when you feel the most positive towards the other person. There are times when you could come to me and I'd say, look, I don't, this isn't important to me. But then when you at that time of sex, we've just finished, say, or it's just about to happen or whatever, you feel much more positive to your partner, and you feel like, no, I want to make you feel good. I want you to feel whatever you need to feel. To feel good. You know what I mean, though.
It's good. Yeah, and there's something that's really frustrating about the human existence. When you're young, you're so insecure about everything. I remember being really cute, and because I had, little curves to my body, being young, being 14, 15, when, I was still really young and cute, oh God, I'm really insecure about that, or I don't want to go to prom because I'm not going to look cute in my dress, when I would have looked adorable looking back, I know that. As you get older, and this isn't just to do with weight, this is just maybe you don't like your skin or your nose or the size of your boobs, the size of your dick, or the shape of your balls. There's no matter, and I'm just serious, we get hung up on the most silly things that people probably aren't going to notice.
No one gives a shit.
Yeah, you might have a weird mole with a hair coming out of it, whether or not you might be... I don't want people to think we're only talking about weight here. I know that's been a lot about it because it's been our journey, or my journey. But somebody is unhappy with something about their body.
I think the difference with it is, that's very true and valid, but I think if you've got an issue about your body, you're probably not going to go through that period of really great frequent sex and then taper off because your balls are funny shaped.
Yeah.
That's something you've always got. You're going to be vulnerable before.
All I'm saying is that's kind of separate. I'm just kind of clarifying. I don't want people to think we're only talking about weight, but so as you get older, past probably your late 20s, sort of, you start to accept these things about yourself, and then the longer you've been in a relationship, you start to accept these things. Oh, I don't want him to see my weird skin, or I hate the shape of my left boob. I don't want, you get past that. But then, so for instance, now for me, I have put some weight back on. I'm not at the weight I want to be, but I don't feel like it's affecting us like things have in the past when I was younger and more insecure. So I think what's unfortunate is you get more comfortable with yourself as you get older, but then your sex drive starts to drop anyway.
Yeah.
So it's really important to find the things that will keep you moist, keep you stiffy, it is a big important part of your relationship, and it can make things better and it can make things worse. But it's what you do with everything else that matters, the communication, your enjoyment of one another around that can improve that.
Yeah, you have to remember a lot of the time, sexual drive comes from, it doesn't come from nothing. Mm-hmm. You have your need of I'm horny, let's do this, but generally wanting to have sex with someone comes from the work that goes in just before that, the connection and but just on the making sure no one feels like we've singled out weight, I think we've made it pretty clear we're not. But something that to really bear in mind is medication can have a huge effect on this. And the difficulty of medication is you can lose weight, but you can't just say, I'm not going to take it. If it's really important, that you're on it.
Yeah, like antidepressants can have a huge factor. Like I said, birth control.
Yeah, you can't just say to your partner, come off that. But there needs to be a conversation. I think we can advise that the conversation takes place. That how that conversation plays out is between you guys. But ultimately, and I think this comes back to what I said at the beginning, that in that situation, it's not reasonable for the person who's, let's say, on that medication to say, well, I'm not in the mood, you're going to have to put up with it. I think you have to take responsibility there and say, this isn't their fault, it's not my fault either, but, I can't expect them to
we have to make it work still.
I can't expect them to just go without indefinitely. So maybe say, look, yeah, you know what, I can only do this when I can do it, but, I'll be there for you as well when you need me to.
Yeah, and I think, to touch back on to what you said earlier, it is really important to women, just speaking as a wife who has been through periods where my interest in sex was very little. You're going through a period, but there are two people in this relationship and you do have to address the other one's needs. And I remember my favorite podcast is Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. And I think he was a guest on someone else's podcast where he said this, and they were talking about sex and marriage. And it was like, you have to have sex with your husband once a week. And it's like, well, what if you don't feel it's like, you have to have sex with your husband once a week. Like, it affects it basically goes back to what, Rich was saying earlier. It is, we are providers. We satisfy our women. Like,
and we get validation that way.
We do get not just validation, but fulfillment. I don't think, but
you can't say we, you're not a man.
Sorry, I just meant to say validation maybe isn't the right word. Like, in the sense that, your job as a partner is not to validate your partner, but it is to help with them feeling fulfilled. And, so, two intelligent men. Dax Shepard is a very intelligent guy. He's like my favorite. My husband is extremely intelligent.
I'm your favorite.
You're my favorite. He's like my favorite, personality person.
Okay. Just want to clarify.
Oh, no, we're not getting
You're like, oh, he's my favorite.
Announcements. I'm leaving my husband for Daxception. No, that's not what's happening here. But no,
But we hear a lot of just on that you have to have sex once a week. That sounds a little bit rigid in terms of maybe it should be twice a week, maybe whatever it is.
I think it's a minimum.
But we do hear this comes up quite a lot about the importance of scheduling sex, because it's not about whether you're in the mood. I think because sex early on is always about when you're in the mood, which is all the time, it's very easy to think that. But the general advice from people who advocate it, and we kind of discussed it between ourselves before, but the idea of it is you have to acknowledge it is so important. You make it a non-negotiable, and then if you're not really in the mood, well, you'll get in the mood, or you'll say, I know that's happening tonight, I'll prep, like you said, I'll have a bath, I'll read some porn, or whatever.
But see, I have a better... Well, maybe not better. I think those things are all good and valid. But I think if you struggle with the idea of scheduling sex, because, it can sound really... Jesus, it used to just happen so naturally. Now we're penciling it in Friday night at 7:30, we're having sex. Like, God, what happened to us?
Yeah.
If you can't get your head around that, schedule romantic time, a date or something, because what normally happens after you've spent some quality time together, you've had a great time, maybe you've dressed up and you're both looking good, you're going to have sex.
Yeah.
So schedule your dates, because, sex is kind of is that foregone conclusion? Is that the right...
Pretty much, yeah.
Right word?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever used that in my life.
I don't think you have. But you're right, though. You want to do something where you feel that electricity between you again.
And so maybe that's going out dancing.
Because then the sex will be better, too.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say earlier on about, if you're the person who isn't really in the mood and you kind of have to suck it up, I think unless there's a real reason why you don't want to, and particularly people who have trauma and things, I'm understanding of that. But generally, sex still feels good. You may not be in the mood, but you're going to finish that thinking, yeah, I feel good now.
That was nice, yeah.
So in that sense, you're going to come out of that probably feeling probably better, but at least neutral. You're not going to come out of that thinking, oh, that was shit. But the person who needs it, the person with that higher drive who's not fulfilled, if they go without, they're going to feel worse. If you can picture, I don't know, like a graph or I don't know. But you know what I mean? If you can picture something where you're both neutral going into it and one of you slightly unhappy because they're not getting any, they're going to feel worse not getting it. You're
probably going to feel a little bit better for doing it.
You're certainly not going to feel worse for doing it. So I think that's partly why the responsibility with you to step up.
And that's assuming there's no issues in the relationship. If you have real problems in your relationship and there's a lot of resentment, you're probably going to feel worse after sex because you think, I fucking don't want to have sex with you. You need to have it. We have it anyway. I'm not happy. This is where these conversations, not just about sex, but about your relationship in general.
And if you need
therapy, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And if you need therapy, check out two of our last 3 episodes. We've got 2 very good therapists who you can get in touch with.
Yeah. So I think, this conversation is going to be unique to every couple. You're going to have your own challenges in your relationship, sex life. But hopefully this has just been some, good food for thought, some conversation starters in your relationship to get around that. Like I said, we could go on for days, but you want lunch.
Well, yeah, we do need lunch. Yeah, I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah. So, be open about it. Talk to each other. It always shocks us how many people just don't communicate in their relationship. And this is a big thing. Sex is really important to both of you, even if you are the one with the lower sex drive. I think so rarely in relationships are you ever going to be 100% on the same level of what we both want sex this many times a week. You're never going to match up completely. So it's going to take some work. So thank you for tuning in, and feel free to send any questions, any topic suggestions. It's been a little while since anyone's asked us to cover a topic in particular, but we're always happy to try and work that in for people.
And remember, visit our website, longdistancetomarriage.com, put your email address in, and you'll be notified when our amazing guide comes out soon.
You sounded really sarcastic. Amazing.
Well, don't be arrogant about it.
Well, you're pretty arrogant.
People can judge for themselves. That's it, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Happy humping.